The topic that I chose to present on this week was how artificial intelligence can detect depression in conversation. In order to treat depression, it must first be diagnosed, and for diagnosis, a patient must be able or willing to seek help from mental health professionals. Now, in order to diagnose depression, medical professionals ask patients various questions, usually from the patient health questionnaire, about lifestyle changes, thoughts, behaviors, and feelings. The answers from these questions are then interpreted and a diagnosis can be made. However, in recent years, artificial intelligence has proven useful for diagnostic purposes, and in this case, may make it easier for individuals with depression to get a diagnosis. This is why researchers at MIT wanted to utilize an automated depression detection algorithm, which models an interview between an individual and an agent and learns from the questions and answers without having any other information about the specific questions or specific answers. So, the model aims to predict whether or not a person is depressed by analyzing speech patterns rather than by looking at specific answers to the specific questions, which is why the researchers call this method context-free. The study looked at speech patterns from audio and text transcripts from 142 individuals who were partaking in a depression screening by a human-controlled virtual agent. The goal was to see which version of the technology would work best for detecting depression. The three methods that researchers looked at were context-free modeling, so without the question that initiated the response, where they found that text features performed better than the audio features. They also looked at weighted modeling, where they weighted the model according to the type of question asked of the subject, in which performance was better with audio than with text features. And finally, they looked at sequence modeling, where using text performed better than the context-free model and about the same level as the weighted model. However, for the sequencing model, which utilized audio features, performed best overall. The technique sequence modeling is generally used for speech processing. In this case, the researchers fed the model sequences of text and audio from depressed and non-depressed individuals, and eventually the model was able to extract patterns. An example of a pattern would be that a depressed individual might say things like sad, low, or down, and then this would be paired with audio signals that are more monotone or low. Another example may be that those with depression speak more slowly or pause more often during speech. It's up to the model then to realize these patterns and decide whether or not they are indicative of depression. A real-world application is that researchers hope that eventually this technology may be utilized to diagnose depression without having to visit a clinician, as it may not always be possible for patients. Researchers also say that the technology could help with assessing the overall cognitive state of a patient, as opposed to just making a depression diagnosis. In conclusion, utilizing this technology to detect depression in natural conversation and making it accessible to a majority of people would make the diagnosis more readily available to a greater population.